New York Pro wrap-up on its way.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. And we're back for another live installment of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, joined by the technician Chris Aceto. And Chris, we are being filmed independently by my good friend Jesse, who is making a day in the life of Dave Palumbo. So we're doing a day in the life of Dave Palumbo today, which is probably one of my most hectic days. It started off at 6 a.m. I had to get my kids to school, Chris, after the weekend of having them. And we went right to the gym from there, and it hasn't stopped since. So I know you had a busy weekend in New York too.
Yeah, good. I'm being filmed by 60 Minutes. My guy to my left, smoking Pall Malls.
Are you still functioning? Did you get a pass on going to Pittsburgh and New York 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah, no, I'm serious. 60 Minutes is here. They want to do they want to do an investigation into the Pittsburgh Pro.
Yeah, I heard you took a little flack because you didn't think Nick Walker deserved to win that. Yeah.
Oh God, is there a giant shadow on me, Dave? It's like, yeah, I took some flack. I don't care though.
You know what the truth is, and I said this, Chris, after Pittsburgh, if you remember, I said the best thing that ever happened to Nick Walker was he did not win Pittsburgh, because it gave him the ability to go back to New York, win his third New York Pro, which is now a record, right?
Yeah, but I don't believe that stuff. I never believe that.
And he qualified for Olympia.
I know, but I hate that. I don't buy into that positivity. Like, the best thing that ever happened to you is become a loser. You know,
No, I'm all about finding the positive side of things. I think everything happens the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, I'm completely negative. So
no, I know you are. You don't like to lose. That's why you have this you really have this terrible thing about losing. But you know what? You helped Derek, so you should be happy that Nick lost.
Yeah, I was happy. I was.
That's why you're not liked anymore by the family, right?
I don't. It's a bodybuilding show.
You could be Bob Ciccarello, who predicted him to finish 8th at the Olympia. So
yeah,
that would be worse than what you are right now.
Yeah, after Mike Wallace is here from 60 Minutes, he's going to Bob Chick a call.
How come there are no interviewers out there like Mike Wallace anymore? Have you noticed
because people don't have an attention span past 12 seconds due to TikTok.
But it's not even that. No one asks tough questions. There's no interviewers like that out there, because no one will do interviews if they have.
If you ask a tough question, they say it's fake. It's a fake question.
I told you my father used to say that all the stars that didn't want to have tough questions like Sinatra, they would only go on Larry King, because Larry King would throw them softballs. If they went on Mike Wallace, they might get a real question.
Larry King, I always hated that show because it was just it was like,
fluff.
Let me kiss your rear end.
Yes.
And then I'm investigating.
That's why I can't get any high profile people on our show.
He only had the investigator's desk and tie and voice. He didn't have one question that was like, "Now, Dave, what is your favorite color?"
That's right. Well, someone, Jesse, who was filming me, asked me, he goes, "What's Kai like in real life? You've interviewed him a lot. Is he like more gangster, like when he's off camera?" I said, "Kai's Kai." That doesn't change. He's the same.
Get what you see, whatever it is. See what you get.
Yeah. He's, he has his own view of the universe, and that's all it is. But you tell me, because you know what? I looked at the pictures, I looked at the videos, and I didn't even go online to give my opinion on the show, because I defer to you, Sid, guys who are actually there, sitting in the front row, looking at the show. Because for me, when I look at pictures, I think Bonac looks great in the pictures. And I know he looks better probably in photos and video than he probably did in person. But how close was it between Bonac and Nick Walker?
I think I alluded to it in the prejudge and wrap up. It wasn't, it was Bonac is very competitive in certain shots. I mean, it's IFBB pro elite level bodybuilding. It's not going to be a complete blowout. It's so just Bonac looked really good. It was a good show for him, especially in prejudging. His side chest and side tricep, and I mean, he looked great.
What won it for Nick Walker then? Size?
Because at the end of the day, he's a lot bigger than everyone. And he was, he's a lot denser and he's harder. And that Bonac didn't have like a shot where he could beat Nick in, but he had shots where he looked very good with him.
Conditioning better or worse than Pittsburgh for Bonac?
I think it was overall better here for sure. Just an overall better bodybuilder here.
Yeah. Did you have Nick Walker winning?
No, I had him fourth. Of course I had him winning. Yeah.
Okay. So it was pretty unanimous in your mind. Now let me ask you this question. I'm gonna put you on the spot because I know you like to be put on the spot. If you prepped Bonac, knowing his gifts and everything like that he has, how would he have done at this show? Would he have won, or you think he still would have lost?
I don't know, but I think that he looked really good, and I thought he was flat and holding water. That's my trained eye. Right. It was both flat and holding water, and still looked really good. Can't say he was full because he wasn't. And you can't say that he was not water because he was, and he still looked really good.
Well, given that you just said that, if you were able to get him peaked out, how would he have beaten? Does he have the ability to beat Nick Walker? That's, I guess, a better question.
At this point, no, because Nick is. There's just a lot of shoulders and arms you have to deal with, and of course, Bonac has great shoulders and arms. Even his legs. A bit, which in the past were a knock against him, they're not a knock. Back width is improved. He's very, 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 very big.
Yeah. We always say that Nick Walker's got a very, very dangerous side chest pose. I think Bonac maybe has the best side chest pose.
I thought Bonac, that's why I said when the minute you asked me, I said he compared extremely well, and the first pose I mentioned was side chest.
Yeah, he's freaky.
Most muscular. Bonac's most muscular compared extremely well, and I would have, I don't even think it was close with Nick's most muscular and anyone's most muscular last week, including Bonac's, and this week it was close.
Talk to me about Regan Grimes.
Regan Grimes looked fabulous when he came out, fabulous with the capital F, and he faded with the 25 size font capital F as the prejudging went on. I thought he was going to slip the classic if they didn't end prejudging.
That bad, huh? What do you think happened?
The biggest or fastest flattening, and it was the biggest flattening and the fastest flattening in the history of me going to bodybuilding shows.
Wow. That back double looks brutal right there. Yeah.
Brutal when he first came out.
Yeah. I wonder what happened.
It was brutal when it first came out. And, Tyler had mentioned something that people won't get who don't go to shows and don't judge shows and just, don't go to a lot of shows. He had mentioned in that Pittsburgh wrap up. He said, people don't understand how these guys, especially the big guys, at this level can change minute by minute. And he's right, of course. But I have never seen anyone like sink as fast as Regan did, because I'm telling you, Dave, he looked fabulous when he first came out.
Right.
He came out by himself, and I said, I'll just have to see if he can beat Nick here.
Wow. That was that close, huh? You think?
I just, I said he'll be too small for Nick, but like he was posing, and I thought, wow, the structure, the size, he just looked big.
That back double looks like he could beat everyone,
It did when it first came out.
Unbelievable.
And it, by the last call with, like, he just changed very quickly.
Yeah. Milos would say it was because he wasn't on enough insulin, I'm sure, right?
It's not an exaggeration. Fastest flattening ever. And you know what's so wild, Dave? I will say this. Visually, it looked like he lost X amount of pounds. I bet if he weighed before prejudging, and let's say just the number was just for a number,
right,
250 pounds, I bet he probably went back to the hotel room and said, like, I must be 240, and get on the scale and drop the pound. You know what I mean? It doesn't, because it doesn't make sense.
Right. No,
he probably looked like he must have felt it that he was flattening.
Right.
And they lined it up, for him to be first or second, but you could quickly make the distinction, like, well, the guy who just came out in the first minute, 7 minutes in, is not even the same person.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a very, very tough show for him, simply because he must have realized when he first came out, or backstage, okay, I look great. And then to fall the fourth, and arguably he could have fallen, in my opinion, fifth.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Did you see what? Speaking of Milos, did you see Milos yelling at Bob on that podcast, the Dennis James podcast? It's pretty funny.
The battles outside the New York Pro. You got the battles on the stage, and you got the battles off the stage.
Milos has gotten very, very aggressive lately, if you notice. Right? Let me see if I can pull this up here. Hold on. Milos is so funny because he's so passionate about what he does, about the whole thing. Let me see if this is it.
So do you stick by your word?
Which word? I've said a lot of words.
That Nick can never win the Olympia.
Nick will never win the Olympia. No offense against Nick. I like Nick personally. Okay, it's not a personality contest for everybody. All right, we always got to give the exclamation. Okay, Nick's a fine guy. I like the kid. Okay, listen, we could use more personality in the game. Do I think Nick can ever win the Olympia? No, and I'll tell you why. Because I think there's always going to be 2 or 3 guys that have better shape, better symmetry, better proportion. I don't think Nick can beat Samson. I don't think he can beat Hottie. I don't think he can, and I don't think he'd have he almost beat Derek, but he didn't. Right. And then you got, Martin, who we haven't even mentioned.
Hey, what's up, everyone? We got a great episode coming up this week.
All right. So that's not the clip I wanted. But what since I put that clip up, comment on that. Do you agree with Bob?
I think that when you asked me, Dave, backstage after the Arnold, you were right back there. The Derek just won, and you said he's going to be Mr. Olympia, and you asked me, and the best time to get me on my real opinion is right immediately after the show. And I said, I named Derek, Hottie, Samson, Andrew, and then I paused, and I was thinking other people, and I said, I threw in Nick. So my gut reaction, not even having seen him on stage, was simply after the Arnold, within 2 minutes, those were 5 people in my mind I thought could win. It's only harder for Nick than maybe, like, say, a Hottie, who's, because of Hottie, on paper he can, yes.
Okay.
That's
so you don't agree with Bob. I'm agreeing with you. I think that I always said that Nick is super dangerous. Do I think he's going to win the Olympia? If I was betting, I wouldn't bet for him, but I certainly would never bet against him because he's, like I said, he's got more mass than everyone else. When he's in shape, he's freaky looking on stage, and he could outmass these guys and win in a situation where guys who have better symmetry are not at 100%. He can certainly beat Derek if Derek's a little off. Derek, in my mind, is a guy who beats himself. When he's not perfect on stage, he leaves the door open because he's not the biggest guy. So he's got to be maxed out like he was in whatchamacallit, in Pittsburgh, or like he was at the Arnold, even better. He's almost unbeatable when he's like that. But when he's a little off, a guy like Nick, who's bigger than him, can absolutely beat him, you know? So all these guys are beatable. Same thing with Hottie. If Hottie's a little off, he can be beaten. But when he's freaking shredded, shrink wrapped to the bone, it's going to be hard for a guy like Nick to knock out Hottie. And same thing with Samson. I agree with that. But I don't think Bob, I certainly don't agree with Bob that he's going to be 8th place at the Olympia. There's no way that's happening. You know?
Yeah. You know, it was probably a stubborn, I'm not going to defend Bob, but it was probably like a stubborn stick based on the way he looked at the New York Pro last year.
Right. Well, he's right. He's assuming that he was going downhill rather than uphill. And I guess it's always easy to go with the trends, right? If the trend is the guy it doesn't show up at a show and he doesn't look his best at the New York, then you can probably pretty much say, well, he's on the way out. The problem with bodybuilding is you never know what's going on with people emotionally, in their life, stability wise. So sometimes people are just not where they need to be, and then they get to where they need to be mentally, and then all of a sudden their physique comes back. Because it's not like Nick's 40 years old. You know, he's a young guy. I assume that you're chewing gum because Nick Walker chews gum on stage?
Yeah, you wanted me to spit it out, but they didn't make him spit it out, so I'm going to
All right, I found the clip I wanted to show you. Hold on, let me get to the clip. All right, this is the real clip I want to show you when Milos goes crazy on Bob. Here we go.
Say, you came with a proposal to take the posing round. Who the fuck are you?
That was the athlete's rep. That's who I was.
Which athlete voted for you? Which athlete told you, can you go please there with this proposal? We want you to tell them this. Who told you that? You represented yourself alone and you were on a dinner table. You again say, you came with a proposal to take the posing round. Who the...
All right, so basically he's mad that Bob claims to have gotten the symmetry round, right? Removed? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know if Bob likes to take responsibility for a lot of stuff. I don't know if Bob was responsible. Bob may have recommended it that they do it and they took it away. But Milos is obviously very upset about that.
And what they were talking about, I liked the symmetry. You know, the symmetry round I liked.
Let's play it again.
My phone's gonna die.
All right, you keep going. I'm gonna play it again. Hold on.
Mike Wallace is pissed at me for moving around.
Yeah.
Fuck are you?
That was the athlete's rep. That's who I was.
Which athlete voted for you? Which athlete told you, can you go please there with this proposal? We want you to tell them this. Who told you that? You represented yourself alone and you were on a dinner table. You again say, you came with a proposal to take the posing round. Who the fuck are you?
Right, sorry.
That was the athlete's rep. That's who I was.
Which athlete voted for you? Which athlete told you, can you go please there with this proposal? Okay, we want you to tell them this.
Why are you playing it again? We heard it.
I like it. It's funny. I like when Milos loses his mind because, first of all, he's so passionate about what he believes. Whether you agree with him or not, it doesn't matter. He's so passionate and has no problem just laying it out that you can see. It has nothing to do with, he's not doing it for hits. He's not doing it for views. Milos truly feels this internally that that by taking away the posing round and the scoring and posing round, that it was the wrong thing to do because it ruined the aesthetic, beauty, artistic part of bodybuilding, which was self-expression. And that's the reason why he got so upset. It wasn't that him and Bob will go eat dinner. They're not mad at each other, but he was mad at that Bob was saying, we didn't need the posing round. It was a waste of time, basically. And so that's why I keep playing, because I love Milos' passion about it. And once again, you could agree or disagree with him. It doesn't matter. Most people probably think he did a good thing getting rid of that posing round because it is very, look, it cost Cedric McMillan the victory at the Arnold Classic that one year. So, is bodybuilding about artistic expression? Is it about symmetry, about muscularity, conditioning, total package? Is it everything? See, everyone has their own viewpoint on it. The fact that they don't judge the posing round anymore, Milos may or may not be right, but I like the fact that he's willing to go so passionately and defend his position. Comments? Did I lose Chris? Yeah. There he is. I lost you. Sorry, Chris. Okay, good. What's your take on that?
So I guess the important takeaway from that, frankly, is I think the symmetry round. I like the symmetry round. You know, maybe at the elite level, at the Olympia, you bring it back. But
well, this was the posing round he was talking about. I misspoke at first.
What was distinct? I couldn't. What was he yelling about? Because I couldn't.
They used to score the posing round. They don't score. Bob said, you know, we got rid of the posing round. No, it's not scored anymore. So Milos is upset about that. That like he felt like who is Bob to get rid of the posing round? You know, but I don't. It wasn't Bob's. Bob likes to take credit for stuff. Bob probably proposed it to them. They decided to get rid of it. The judges and the powers that be got rid of it. Not Bob.
I'll tell you. Here's the problem with the posing round. You know, you have Derek in a tiebreaker beating Nick last week. Could you imagine if it came down to the posing? People would want to burn the building down.
Yes, I agree.
You know, like if hi, my name is, you know, Tyler Mannion. I scored at 4-4, and I loved and enjoyed better. Yep. He showed it. God, you get into the intangibles of, you know.
Oh, it was the symmetry round. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You know, it just keep the focus on who's the best bodybuilder up there.
Chris, I'm sorry. It was the symmetry round, and your camera's frozen a little bit. I don't know why.
Fuck it.
But yeah, I didn't watch the podcast, so I thought it was the posing round he was talking about, but it was the symmetry round. I think they judge the symmetry round. They may not judge it separately, but they definitely assess the symmetry round when those guys are up there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have them do quarter turns. So I guess Milos liked the fact that they scored everything individually and gave it a score, but they assessed that symmetry round. There's no doubt about that, you know. And you know what the funny thing is? Nick Walker actually looks good in the symmetry round. I think he does his quarter turns really well. His side poses are tremendous. His back pose is really good. You know, his front pose, he doesn't have the smallest waist, but he looks good. He sits down on those abs real well. So if anything, I think it certainly doesn't hurt Nick Walker, the symmetry round. One of the best guys in the symmetry round, obviously Flex Wheeler was great. Sean Roden was phenomenal in that symmetry round back in the day, because these are guys with tiny waists. They sit on those abs. Milos was great at the symmetry round. That's why Milos is crazy about it, because that was probably his best poses were his quarter turns. But the judges definitely assessed that. I think, and not to side with Milos or Bob, but I think that the judges as a whole, when they look at a physique, they're judging everything because they're seeing the symmetry round, they're seeing the mandatories, and they're making an assessment based on what everyone looks like. You can't not see that because they start out doing quarter turns and then they go into the poses. So it's a total evaluation of everything that's up on stage, and it's a feel. And that's why, you know, you can't maybe tangibly explain why Derek won Pittsburgh, but I can give you a gut instinct as why Derek won Pittsburgh, because when I was sitting there in the second row and I looked and I had to make a decision, I said, for some reason, my eyes go to Derek. Derek has more polish, pop. Wow, even though he's not as big as Nick, that's what won it. It's the intangibles. And when things are close, that's what decides it. So the quarter turns probably do count, but it's probably not unless it's really close on stage. And that's the way it should be. Let's face it, bodybuilding is the poses, okay? Doing the symmetry round and giving an equal score to the poses is not going to solve the problem. It's good to have them so that the judges have that in their mind. They can say, you know what, who looks better in the symmetry round? Okay, Nick looked better, or this one looked better. We're going to give, when it's close, we're going to give it to this guy. And I guarantee that's probably, if you talk to a judge and they tell you the minutia of what in their mind decided, you know, Derek over Nick, it was aesthetics and probably the symmetry round that did it for him. Just overall polish and stuff like that. And you know what? That's the name of the game. When I look at pictures of William Bonac, I think he looks better in pictures, but I wasn't there. And that's why I didn't go on the record and give my opinion. That's why I defer to people like Chris, who was there, and Sid, because they were in there and I asked them, what do these guys look like in person? Chris already said it, you know, they looked amazing in person. And, you know, Bonac did not look as hard as he did in the pictures in person, and Regan faded real quickly. And that's the kind of input we need. So let me add Chris back. Okay. You back, Chris?
I'm back.
Okay. So like I was saying, I said the symmetry round is judged. It's just not given a separate score. But, you know, when it's close and there are nuances and you're trying to separate two guys, I think the judges always have that in the back of their mind, who looked better in the quarter turns.
Yeah, I was listening, Dave, and your eyes always went back to Derek, not because there's more polish, because I was saying, how's Derek look? So you're biased. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, that's funny. But all right, let's go back to the show. What does Regan need to do, Chris, moving forward? Are we going to? I think we're going to see him in California. Is that right, Sid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just needs to look like he did the first 1 minute of the show.
And what made him fade in your mind?
I saw him at Guy Sistanino's on Sunday, and we talked about it a little bit. And he couldn't put, there was nothing like, there was not one thing, which is the most frustrating, because I said, Regan, you look so good when you first came out, and you look terrible by the end of prejudging. You look small.
Oh, you told him that?
Yeah.
Good.
And he knew it. And he said, I don't know if I asked, what did you do? Or he told me what he did, but the conclusion was, and I told him, this is the worst of it. Nothing. You know what I mean? There was no, like, he didn't eat like 40 bananas on Thursday, or like, carb up on 10,000 pounds of sugar, an hour before, or there was nothing, and so I thought in my mind, well, he was maybe just because he hasn't been on stage and he was excited, he was nervous, and then that wasn't it. And, just, there was nothing, which is the most frustrating part, because at least if you know, like, okay, I did something crazy in the morning, whatever that crazy, I drank a gallon of water, or I didn't drink for 2 days. There was nothing really, anything out of the ordinary, which of course makes it more frustrating, because if you do something out of the ordinary, then you can say, okay, good, that's fine. I'm just not doing that next time.
Right. I agree with you. But, Milos would say it's probably not enough insulin, I would think. That's why he faded.
He looked too big.
Regan is
be a t-shirt, too big to fade, right?
He's got really long legs. He's a big guy, Regan. He's over 6 foot. The legs, from behind looked amazing. I thought he has really good quads. It seemed like his adductors, just were a little deflated. I don't know if that was he flat, you think?
He was flat, not as a pancake, flat as the pancake mix by the end of the prejudging. It was a side, Dave. It was a just.
Have you seen a client of yours go through something like that before?
Well, I mean, towards the end of prejudging, not only was he getting small, he was sweating. So I was kidding with him. I said, "My God, you made me look good, Regan. Not only did you shrink, but you pulled the Ramon and started sweating." I said, "At least don't get cold when he was sweating." Regan's a good guy, they're good. Regan's like over it. Sunday's like whatever. Next show.
Yeah.
He was laughing about it, literally.
I don't see anyone beating him in California. I mean, who's going to be in California at this point?
Sass will do it. He'll give him trouble, for sure. Yeah.
Talk to me about Sass.
Sass just needs to be super sharp. He didn't have much oil on him pre-judging, so it made him look like he was white and soft and white, and he just got to be flooded in oil. If you look at the night show pictures, he was just soaked in oil. I mean, soaked, and it just made his body look like, gave a real representation of the way he looked like.
Was his tan dark enough?
His tan was dark enough. The lights were good, but they were bright lights. Like you can see, so, nobody looked like perfectly tanned. Like Nick usually's got that color down toward, science. He looked a little light, maybe. Of course, Curzo looked like Snow White.
Yeah.
He looked no tan.
Can I do a little rant for a second?
You keep it brief, because usually the whole show is one big rant.
Yeah, guys,
you're not gonna rant like Milos. You're not gonna.
I'm not gonna go nuts. I'm just gonna say, I gotta say one thing though, guys. I don't know what it is about you guys, but putting aside the fact that you might have had skin cancer, which I don't think any of you guys have had skin cancer, because most of you guys are young. Why aren't you laying in a tanning bed and getting a base tan? You'll inject steroids. You'll squat 600 pounds, which is dangerous. Okay, you dehydrate yourself half to death to get a stage. Can you please lay in a tanning bed for 6 to 8 weeks before the show, a couple times a week, and get a base tan? And if you can't do that, you can take melanotan and get dark. I don't understand why you guys are pasty white. Crizzo, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to all the other guys that are Martin. Go tan, for God's sakes. Tan should not be something you say, oh, I lost a show because my tan sucked. I don't understand it. We all tanned back in the 90s, okay? We all laid in the tanning bed and got a base tan, and then we put our pro tans and whatever stuff we had available to us to tan at this point. You guys got great spray tan stuff, but you got to have a base coat. I've said this a million times before. When you paint your house, if you have a wall that's dark, you put a base coat first of all. You make it white, and then you paint it over that. You don't just paint white over dark paint, okay? It's the opposite of bodybuilding. Before you go and put a dark coat on, you can't be white underneath, because if the thing smudges or it fades a little bit, you have no color. Why would you spend all that money on supplements and PEDs and food and suffer and lose all that body fat and get on a pro stage where they're offering, hundreds of thousands of dollars and not have a tan? I don't get it. What's the problem? Can you answer that question for me, Chris?
I just think, I think it's good to have a base tan, but I think that just what happens is people go to one show and their tan was perfect and they say,
but why risk it at all? Get a freaking base tan so you got something under the color. Why can't you do that?
A problem or an issue, Dave, is, you go to one show and one tanning company tans you maybe, and then you go to another show and it's a little bit different, and then you go to another.
Why risk it? If you have a base tan, you don't have to deal with that crap. Everyone's got a good. If you have a base tan and you get tanned over it, very rarely do you ever have a bad job.
Yeah. I mean, you call it, no matter what, if you put like a tanning product over a good tan, you're going to look better. So you're right.
Why do you think black guys look so good on stage? They're getting spray tan, but they have a base of color under there. If you're white and you're pasty white, lay in a tanning bed or take melanotan. You got to have a base color before you put the spray stuff on, or it's not going to look good. Or it might look good, but you're flipping a coin. You're risking it. It's not worth it. You have control over three things, I always say: conditioning, your coloring, and your presentation. If you screw up any of those three, you are a moron, M-O-R-O-N. You know why? Because that's something that should be perfect. You have control of that. You don't have control over how much muscle you have, your symmetry. You don't have control over that, because that's just what you're born with and how much you've built over the last couple of years you've been training. But conditioning, you absolutely can control. You can make that perfect. Color, you can control, because you can have a base tan and get good color. And presentation is just practice. So if you give up those three things, especially as a pro, on a pro level, an elite pro level, shame on you. You don't deserve to win. That's how I feel about it.
You actually, I mean, it is a good point, because, I would, Michael Crizzo's tan is always not good. And
he's pasty white.
Yeah, and even with the pro tan on or whatever tanning product that he uses, or he still looks like he needs a lot more color. So, if you're in the audience and you're looking at Michael Crizzo, or, and you think like, oh, he looks great. Tell me what's the negative. Well, hamstring from the side and color. I mean, hamstring from the side is, like you said, it's, that's work in the gym or development. Tan could be fixed.
Yeah.
So maybe the Arnold can give out like what Samir Bannout won. Samir Bannout won the NABBR World Championships in Worcester, Mass, and they gave him a check for $22,500. They gave him a tanning bed. And he went to the promoter's house to beat him up because they gave him the check. They gave him the check.
Yeah.
And they gave him it was like cash prizes worth.
So he got no money. He just got the tanning bed.
Oh, he got cash, but he got the tanning bed was valued at like $3,500. He didn't want the tanning. $3,500.
Well,
can you imagine what Samir said? What am I going to do? Mail it back to California?
Right. Samir should sell that tanning bed to Crizzo and or one of the other guys.
He's donated it to the Hall of Fame.
Martin needs a tan. I love Martin. I told him, Martin, you got a tan, man. I'm sorry. You shouldn't look like powder from that movie. Okay, yeah. You gotta have a tan before you get on that stage, especially if your head's sake. Go lay in the sun. It's the summer. The spring is here. Summer's there. Even in St. Louis, you guys got. I think that's where he's from. You got sun now. Go outside and sit in the sun. It's good for you. It's good, guys. You know what? The sun is the most important. They say the one of the major predictors of long life is people who are in the sun a lot, Chris, okay, have a longer life. Because there's obviously a reason why the sun's out there, right? The sun, without the sun, there'd be no plants, okay? The plants need the sun. We need the sun too. Doesn't mean you need to go out and get burned, obviously, but you need to get a little sun. If you go outside and sit out for 15, 20 minutes every day and turn 15 minutes on each side, that takes a half hour. You will get a beautiful, beautiful bronze color, I promise you. You don't have to go out for 3 hours every day. 15 minutes, 20 minutes on each side. That's it. It should be part of your routine, okay? And most of you guys don't work.
For the next big thing, tanning coaches. He's my tanning coach.
I'm getting my where's my video guy? You're filming a day in the life. I gotta take people out to my pool. I gotta film out in my pool so I can show them how to tan, because people, I just was teaching them how to squat in the gym today. And I got to go show them how to tan. It's called get a lounge chair, put a towel on it. Okay. You lay on your back for 15, 20 minutes. You turn over, you lay on your stomach for 15, 20 minutes, and you're done. You can jump in the pool. If you don't have a pool, you go and shower, take a shower, and you're done. Do that every day. I promise you, it'll put you in a better mood too. You'll be in a very good mindset. Your neurotransmitters will be firing. You'll be creative. You'll feel good about yourself. It's nice to have a little color in your face. People won't think you're dying. Because I know that well, it wasn't me, but I know when people diet a lot of time for shows, Chris, and then they have no color, their grandmothers think that they're starving themselves. They think they're like they have cancer or something like that. Get some color, please. No more excuses. And you know what? If I see anyone on that Olympia stage without color, and I know because they have no base tan, I'm going to go crazy on them. So all you guys listening, I know you guys watch the show. I'm giving you an assignment. Get a base tan, all right? And if you need help, contact me. I'll be more than happy to tell you how to do it. Right. I have high blood pressure now because I'm screaming so much. That's exactly right. That's why I'm turning redder by the minute. So, all right. That's my rant for the day. I see Larry Wheels got his pro card. You see that?
How about the Classic, Dave? You want to cover the Classic over Larry?
Yeah, I wanted to just mention Larry Wheels before I forgot about it, because then I'll forget. And I like Larry Wheels. Let me pull up Larry Wheels' picture. So my good friend Hans Vogel, who I got to give credit, sent me some pictures of Larry. I guess Larry was in 2 divisions. And so the first division came in 4th, and then he won the 2nd division. But so he gets his IPB pro card. Larry Wheels, this was at the Muscle Contest Ireland, which is where my friend Hans is from. Larry Wheels was in one of the first few pros versus pros challenges we used to do back in the day.
Yeah.
He was in one of the bench challenges. No one knew who he was at the time. He was super strong. He was young. He had to be in his early 20s. And I'm like, this guy is freaking strong. Holy mackerel. Little did I know what he would become. But that's pretty cool that he can lift that kind of crazy weight in the gym, and he got a pro card. So good job, Larry. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. He's killing it on social media. He's lived all over the world, so I don't believe it was fixed. That was not fixed. You guys people always got to put everything down. Why was it fixed? Larry has a good physique.
Dave, they can't fix 2 shows in 1 month after
that. That's right, Chris. That's right.
1 month. 1 month.
Oh my God. Anyway, good job, Larry Wheels. All right, let's get back to the Classic division. I thought, and I'm going to mention it, I'm just going to call it like I saw it. I thought last week that Jose Manuel, or as it looks like his name is on Instagram, Josema, but it's not Josema, it's Jose M.A., Jose Manuel. I thought he clearly beat Rough Diesel last week in Pittsburgh. He came back here. I thought they were going to give it to Jose. For this show, Rough Diesel wins again. Was it deserved, Chris? I was not there, obviously, this weekend. I will defer to your opinion on this one.
Well, once again, it's, sometimes there's two shows in one. If you watch the world's worst wrap up in history that I did for the Barracks Muscle after the prejudge, and thought Rough Diesel was the winner. And and here's the reason why.
Why? Yeah, tell us why.
He looked not hard, but hard enough for that. For him, he lacked massively the hardness that Jose had. And I thought that, like, Jose's best pose is his back, but he looked like odd. The shape is odd compared to Rough Diesel's on the back double. So you would think that pose would automatically go to Jose. And I think you could make the argument for sure for Rough Diesel on the back double, because it's shaped better. It's hard for that physique, that like better flowing tie-ins. You could argue that Jose's underdeveloped, although crazy hamstrings from behind. You could argue that he's a little shallow in the legs compared to the upper body because of the back is a little bit too dominant, and it's classic, which implies flow. And then I thought Rough Diesel looked especially good in prejudging, only hard enough in the front double. So I thought, oh yeah, Rough Diesel. At the night show, I thought Rough Diesel's upper body was, from the front and side was, quote, soft enough to not justify him getting by Jose at night. So I thought Jose was better at night. I thought Rough Diesel was better in the morning. So that's how I saw the show.
What did you think about it in Pittsburgh?
I didn't see it in Pittsburgh, but I'll say this. Jose was completely insane condition at night. So he was only insane in prejudging, but he was like nuts and insane at night. So because of that, and for sure Rough Diesel was not as tight at night as he was in prejudging, that was enough for me to go with Jose for the win.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised there. I was a little surprised. But I didn't watch the show like crazy attentive. But my impression was, okay, Jose's got too much condition here. I think probably judges might go back to him and say, your legs look a little undersized for the upper body, which throws off the flow in some poses. And therefore, because you're up against a guy with great balance and you're in the classic division, and in their minds, classic is about lack of flaws in flow, then they went with Rough Diesel.
Yeah, I when I was in Pittsburgh, I'm only going to comment on Pittsburgh because I was there sitting in that front row, and I did watch Classic there, and I thought that Jose easily won. Not easily, but I thought he did enough. His conditioning was, insane.
Well, you're one of the judges, Dave, and you know what? This is not this is just to illustrate judges different. Whenever I say like, well, pick another panel and to some guy, I was second by 2 points. Everyone had me winning, or second by a point. I said, you know what? A different panel of 9, different judges may have had a different result. And you're a freak, so you probably go with, you know what I mean? The guy who was the most conditioned 7 out of 10 times over. Right.
I think we have to, but I think when you start rationalizing why a guy won, like you're trying to figure it out, like that's not a good sign. Usually you have to try to figure it out. It usually means that maybe the wrong guy won. I would have liked, I want to see both of those guys on the Olympia stage. I wouldn't have had a problem with maybe one winning Pittsburgh, the other winning New York. It's kind of a little weird that Rough Diesel won both. I mean, the guy's a super nice guy. I'm glad he did it, and he looks great. And I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm a conditioning guy. I thought and I think that Jose's got some insane symmetry. So maybe they like to see him a little fuller. I don't know, but he might have a weight cap issue that he's sucking down to make, almost like Ramon Dino has the same problem. I don't know if that's the case, but he certainly deserves to be on that Olympia stage. There's no doubt about that. So we'll see. We'll see. What about 212? You had a course in that race, of course.
I think that I wasn't sitting in the right seats to judge that show, and here's the reason why. Meaning I was too far back. But my impression was when Angel came out, I thought there's no way he's winning. He looked soft to me. And then he seemed to tighten up on the prejudging. So for the Open, I was 5 rows in.
Right.
The prejudging of the 212, I was probably 17 rows back. So it looked like they were lining it up for Angel to win. And I thought, to me, from 17 rows back, to me, looks kind of not as tight as he needs to be or has been. And then they moved him out of that first place position. I thought, yeah, that's the way it's going to go. And then as he posed, and it looked like he got significantly sharper, and they moved him back to what looked to be first place. But on the other hand, I know I've seen Fran compete for a few years now, and I know he gets in tremendous condition, the condition that you this picture. He looks in very, very good condition, but he was definitely, I'm sure, sharper even than these pictures show. So he gets into great condition, a condition that can win shows, and apparently, he was hard enough to get the win. He did give, I liked his speech. He gave a speech, and apparently, it seems if you read between the lines, Angel, who he beat, it seems helped them in the past, kind of was a mentor.
Oh, real? Oh, that's cool. I like that. Yeah, that's cool. Francisco Barrios from Brazil. The Brazilians are just dominating, man. They're really, I got to tell you, they really are producing some amazing bodybuilders.
He's not from Brazil. He's from Argentina.
How come? Well, it does say Brazil on the sheet. So.
Oh well.
Maybe they got it wrong, but they said Brazil on the score sheet. So.
I'm pretty almost 100% sure it's from Argentina.
Oh, those South Americans. It's all the same, right, Chris?
George W. Bush thought that Africa was no in Africa. That there were individual countries.
He thought it was one big country. Yeah. I see John Effer in there. John, when are you doing your pro debut? We'll see if he answers. All right. Let's. I want to ask you one more question about that show. Who do you like for the Olympia in the 212? I mean, aside from obviously the obvious, which is Keon Pearson. Who do you think is going to be that top group this year? I mean, we've been seeing a lot of guys. There's not a lot of 212 shows, qualifiers out there as there is in the other divisions. Who? I mean, aside from Keon, who I think that should move up to the Open, but he's not doing that this year, obviously. Who can beat this guy?
No, I don't think this year anyone. And I think.
I mean, Clarita will challenge him for sure, but I mean, is it those two guys and then everyone else?
It is Keon and everyone else.
Okay, so you don't think that Clarita is even close to Keon?
No, because when Keon, when Keon started to make a move.
Yeah.
Keon started to make a move when he got 7th, and I distinctly remember that show because Angel was 2nd and Clarita was 1st, and Keon looked completely outrageous, and he ended up tanking down to 7th, which was a little odd. I mean, I think he came back from the previous year, not even in the top 15. And he looked like he would really put it together, but just not there yet. And then next year, he made a big, 2 years in a row, he made big jumps in just development and maturity. And when he was 7th, he had made the super roundness jump and the maturity jump, and even he made the condition jump. He just didn't look like he had enough condition to slam down top 3. So,
right.
I mean, he's look at him in Pittsburgh. I mean, he looks like he's ready in 7 weeks.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right. Brandon Hendrickson wins the men's physique. I wonder what Ali Bilal felt about that. Did Ali help him?
Yeah, the top three were outstanding.
No, but wasn't Ali Bilal giving him some advice after Pittsburgh?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I thought he was. Didn't he say he liked Brandon's physique? You told me he said something about Brandon.
I mean, he's a he gives accolades.
You told me he gave him advice. What was the advice he gave him? Ali Bilal gave Brandon Hendrickson some advice about how to stand on stage or something like that.
No, Dave, stuff that I share with you, it shouldn't be like shared on like.
No, but it was good advice. I thought,
No, don't share it because it's a private conversation I have with you.
I'm not sharing it.
I mean, if we
needless to say, I thought Ali Bilal gave him some good advice.
That bad, we can get Greg Valentino on the show and he can.
I'm gonna say all I'm saying is I think that Ali gave him some good advice, and I'm glad Brandon won because I like Brandon. I've been saying for years. I thought Brandon actually looked really good in Pittsburgh too. I thought he could have been a little higher, but I'm glad he won. He didn't have to qualify obviously because he's a former Olympia champ. Glad he's back in the winner's circle. It's good for the sport. He's a good guy. I also wanted to bring up Nathalia Coelho, who I'm friends with her and her mom.
She had the best color in the show, men, women.
Yes, and I wanted to bring something up, and I don't know. You might not agree with me, but I feel that Nathalia Coelho reminds me a lot of Laura Craval's physique, your ex-wife, when she was competing in women's bodybuilding. There's something about the way their upper body is put together, the small waist, the way those lats flare out. Do you agree with me, or am I wrong?
It's the ab structure with the
yes.
body.
Yeah.
And
the upper body looks almost identical, right?
Yeah.
Can she win the Olympia? I mean, she's won it before, but can she reclaim her Olympia credit?
Yeah, I think she's capable. I mean, hard. Right. She could.
She's like the Milos of the women's physique division. She can compete 100 times during the year and still look her absolute best at every single show she does. Which is funny because these guys can't do it, but she can peak show after show after show after show. If you
guys are like this. How was he last week to this week? 10 times worse this week than last week.
She's the same. Yeah, right. She's the same. And you're right. She does have the best tan on stage because she's a professional, a details person. Yeah, she's a details person.
You can tell them everything about her weeks of detail, from the suit to the posing to the smile to the presentation, the turns, the tan.
She looks great. Beautiful girl, tremendously talented. Matter of fact, she just got her PhD. I don't know if you were aware of that, Chris.
No, I didn't. I wasn't aware. Which she get?
And she got it from the same college that George did, but she actually had to do labs and stuff like that. George was exempt from having. It took her 8 years. It took George 6 months, but she's a real doctor. She's a naturopathic doctor, so congratulations to her. Very well deserved victory. All right, what else did I want to talk? Oh, I wanted to bring up the Linda Murray thing. Did you? Let me pull that up.
Yeah, sorry. You
Linda Murray made a comment about the prize money because Arnold raised the. Let's pull the whole thing. So Arnold raises the prize money to the Arnold Classic. Big announcement, as we know, $750,000. You predicted it. I predicted it. We all said. As a matter of fact, we all believe that Arnold will be the first person to give away $1 million, but Jake Wood has a chance to eclipse that at the Olympia if he wants to, raise it up higher than that. Arnold goes from 500 to 750. That's a big jump. $250,000 for first place. First of all, what's your opinion on that? I think it's great for the bodybuilders.
I think that amount changes everything. I mean, we saw the bodybuilding changes from that announcement because that is enough money to pull out every guy who wins the Olympia to say, I'm doing the Arnold. Every guy who wins the Olympia will also say, and I'm doing the Arnold. It's just too much money to bypass.
Yeah.
It's too much money to bypass in the context of this. It's either I'm getting older, I got to get the money, or I got an injury that's nagging that nobody knows about, I still can get the money.
Right.
How about this? I'm young and healthy. I might as well do it and get the money. Every type of scenario you come up with, you're going to have every single guy in the top 5
Right.
at Olympia. They will all go to the Arnold for the 750.
Right. How could you turn it down if you know you have a chance to win it? Right.
Well, if you slip, and miss a little, you still get 250.
That's very, very good point. You're right. That's right.
So there's
Still
a lot
of money.
When we handicap on paper the Olympia, I already mentioned 5 people can win it. Only 1 will. So the other 4 were like, well, screw it. I still got 2nd at the Olympia or 3rd.
Right.
I'm going to the Arnold.
You think we'll see Hadi Chopin do it this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. That's a lot of money. In Iran, you can probably retire on that money.
The words right out of my mouth.
he can just never compete again and probably just live like a king there. So yeah, that's a big prize.
That is a bigger announcement than the 5. It's a bigger announcement than the 3 a couple of years ago. Of course, you got the Olympia, who are responding to it by increasing their prize money.
Well, they haven't made an announcement yet for that.
Well, they will.
What do you think they'll raise it to?
Probably more than the Olympia.
No, I mean, what do you think the Olympia people will raise the Arnold to?
You mean what will the Olympia people raise the first prize to?
Yeah.
Higher than 750.
You think they'll go 8, or you think they'll go $1 million?
I don't think they'll do 8 because then it looks like they're chasing.
Right.
And they'll go higher than 8 for sure. But the only it's in defense of the Olympia, but to put on the Arnold versus put on the Olympia, the expenses are a little bit different.
Much higher for the Olympia.
Yeah. And the draw, the sum total of income is probably not that much more, but the outlay is so much more because of all the divisions.
That's right. And Arnold only has 6 divisions. Yeah.
It's like having 4 kids versus 1. I can buy a car for one of my kids. I can't buy them for like every year. You know what I mean? For all 4.
Right. But like you said, they can't go 8 because it looks like they're chasing. Last year, Jake raised it 100,000. So let's say he goes to 850. Okay. Arnold has his show, does 750. After the show, let's say he announces, I'm going to 900 or 950, then I think Jake actually is in line to probably get the $1 million first, because if it keeps going up incrementally like it's been doing the last couple of years, Arnold's not going to raise it. He already made the announcement 750, so he's going to hold in 26. It's going to be 750. If Jake goes to 850 for this year's Olympia, and then Arnold raises it again, Jake has the ability to hit $1 million first. So I think Jake's in a good position in terms of prize money. Do you think in 26 we'll see $1 million given away at the Olympia?
In 2026?
Yeah.
Yes, you will.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking 26 we're going to see that $1 million, and I think it's going to be Jake Wood that's going to do it first, which is fine. I mean, because then Arnold's going to have to go to $1 million. And that means we're going to see 2 shows at $1 million. And I think that once we hit that point, you're going to see talent going into the bodybuilding world like we've never seen before. And I think you're going to see a lot of those classic guys, moving up to open. Do you think that might be the case?
Yeah, I think like I said, it changes. Everything changes. You could talk entire show on what changes besides the entire Olympia lineup going to the Arnold, or the entire Arnold lineup, the entire top 6 from the Olympia going to the Arnold. It just changes the dynamic. There's just too many things you can talk about what it changes. It changes classic people. I mean, does Chris Bumstead compete?
Maybe. You think he would come back?
$1 million? Yeah.
You might be right. I didn't even think about that, Chris, to be honest with you. I didn't even think about it.
Does Phil throw like in the back of his head thinking like, my arms and shoulders and legs are still as big as everyone's, and I do like machines. You know what I mean?
Right.
What could Phil do for $1 million?
Yeah.
It's $1 million
sure.
twice. It's
Right.
$1 million twice. What does Phil do for like the Olympia and the Arnold? I'm just, you see Ramy coming back for sure.
Well, I don't think Ramy needs the money, but yeah, I mean, who doesn't need $1 million though? You like you said, it's a big change. Let me ask you that. I want to play. Linda Murray had some strong words to say about Arnold raising the prize money with regard to the women. I want to get your feedback on it. I know you and I have a different viewpoint than she did, but let me play the clip first, and then I'll have you comment on it, and then we'll. Now, Linda Murray is an 8-time Miss Olympia. Let's see what she says.
You guys know what I'm thinking. Ladies, you know what I'm thinking. Okay. So this message is in regards to the announcement that Arnold Schwarzenegger just made about 26, that he will increase the prize money for the open men bodybuilders at the Arnold to $750,000 for first place. Well, I love numbers too, and I want to share this information. At your show in 25, there were 18 women, 3 divisions, and 18 women received together, they split $108,000. You gave to your third.
All right, so that was the thing. So she's basically saying that the women at the Arnold, all the women at the Arnold split $108,000, and meanwhile he's going to give $750,000 to the overall men's winner, and she doesn't think that that's. And then in the post she actually showed some statistics where let me pull that up so we're all fair to her here. She said that the 18 women have over 3 million followers combined. Third place open winner, which was Andrew Jack, ironically enough, who won 800, right? Who won. Has 850,000 followers on Instagram. Now, I don't know why she's equating followers on Instagram as to what's going to make Arnold money at the Arnold Classic, but I don't know. I wanted your opinion on what she had to say about that.
Is she implying like they're discriminated against? It's just an odd.
Yes. She's basically insinuating that, number one, they're being discriminated against, that women should have just as much money, and that they have more followers. All these 18 women that were in the show combined have more followers. 3 million followers.
When a woman is flying you from New York to Los Angeles as a pilot for American Airlines, she should make the same amount as a man who flies you on American Airlines from New York to Los Angeles. But I think she's confusing that, where a woman should not be paid less for the same job, with selling tickets and impact on revenue. Men's bodybuilding and men's divisions sell more tickets and therefore should be compensated accordingly than women's divisions. And if you are in doubt about that, you can just do a little experiment and have a Olympia weekend with the divisions that she just mentioned, or Arnold weekend with the divisions that she just mentioned, and see how, the turnout is in terms of attendance. Case closed.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and I think that's what she's not. It's not an equal type of thing.
I mean, it's like saying LeBron is making more than whoever in the WNBA. Well, there is a reason for that. There's people. It's like saying you can be even more. You could say, like, why is Tom Brady, the quarterback, making more than the lineman? Because the front office puts value in who should be paid what, based on, it all comes down to money. How many tickets can be sold? I mean, the number one way you're going to get the Olympia tickets, prize money to 1 million for the men, not for the women, 1 million for the men, is to get to an arena that holds 10,000. Yeah, the seats will stink, but they stink at NBA games when you're up in the rafters. You know what I mean? There's nothing like being able to sit very close at an NBA game, to where it's happening, but people still pay for those tickets way up in the rafters. Same thing with football and bodybuilding. Yeah, maybe you can solve it with big giant screens and just sell cheaper tickets for the the seat.
WrestleMania, Chris, 100,000 people in an arena, right?
But what's that?
WrestleMania, 100,000 people in an arena. Yeah. They watch the screens. They don't care. It's the energy of being in the arena. And you're right. If Arnold only had men's bodybuilding open and they didn't have any other divisions, he would sell just as many tickets. You're not going to lose the 10 people that are going there to see bikini. Are really going to still go and see the men's open. The men's open, it would sell the tickets. The men's open would pay the bills, and that's why they're going to give $1 million to the men's open division at some point. And the fact that Arnold has the other divisions is really just to balance the show. It really doesn't have any revenue change. I don't believe it brings any more or less revenue in from the women's divisions. I think it's great that he gives away that much money to the women. I like watching the women's divisions, especially women's physique. But really, at the end of the day, the men are selling the tickets. I hate to say it. And like you said, it has nothing. It's not like a woman versus a man. Like you said, it was a great analogy you gave. The pilot does the same exact job as the man and the woman flying someone from New York to California. They should deserve equal pay. But when we talk about Kim Kardashian versus, a lesser man, Kim Kardashian is going to bring in a lot more money and they're going to pay her a lot more. So it's what the person brings to the stage. In the bodybuilding world, men's open bodybuilding brings tons of much more money of revenue from live streaming, from ticket sales at the arena. It's just a fact. It's always been that way.
Yeah. It's always been that way. And it's kind of, it's sort of a minor distraction, the commentary from like the announcement, because the announcement should be celebrated, Jake Wood he's already stepped it up since he's had the Olympia. How many times has he upped the money? You could say like, you hear this back, I hear this like on the sidelines, like the Arnold's in competition with the Olympia within the Arnold. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the competition, who's in competition or who, decided to increase the prize money first. In Jake Wood's defense, he was, I think, the first guy to in COVID, not only to have the show, remember, there were no shows in COVID, including the Arnold. Remember? Right. They had no audience. But, he put on the Olympia in Florida, moved it, kind of sort of saved it because they wouldn't even have had it if they had kept it, or they couldn't have had it if they kept it where they're going to have it. And I think that year he, not only that, but he increased the prize money. He's been increasing it ever since. And, maybe it's his desire to step up and increase the prize money that's led in the reaction of Arnold saying, okay, I'm doing the same. I'm going to follow suit and increase the prize money. Just happens that Arnold's increased it, taking a big step to increase it to $750.
Yeah. No, Lee Priest said the same thing as you did. Basically the women's NBA, WNBA had the biggest year ever, and then there's still, 40 million in the hole. So it is what it is. And unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. Now, someone said that, you were hinting that Rami's making a comeback. Chris was just saying as an analogy, if they gave away that kind of money, Rami would probably.
Yeah, I didn't say Bill's making a comeback, but you know what? You don't know who it draws.
No.
In.
Yeah.
Chris Bumstead. That's what I said. Chris Bumstead. I didn't say he's going to do the Open, but you think like, two shows, $750,000, and they're not too far apart. Why not?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and we love Linda and we love Linda's physique. Chris doesn't love Linda because she used to beat.
Followers. But, you know what, Dave? Followers on Instagram do not win bodybuilding.
And they don't necessarily sell tickets either, Chris. Those guys don't buy tickets. They don't go to shows.
You could have, yeah.
Those Instagram followers don't even buy the live stream. That's the funny thing is they're cheap. They go on Instagram to find the free coverage,
We don't know that. Well, the last little bit, Dave, here's how the Olympia goes to well over 1 million. It's all in the live stream. People work from home, and there's nothing like going to the Olympia. It's very exciting. You mentioned energy in the room, and you mentioned men's bodybuilding, open division is, the king of the weekend and the buzz, and it's exciting to be there. And you don't even need a good seat. So if they have a venue that's sold 10,000 tickets, even if you can't see well, it's still exciting to be there. You get to see people, you get to see the athletes, even if you don't see them on the weekend. But the live stream is the untapped revenue stream for the Olympia. It is the way to reach everyone, everywhere, and it's the generator that could allow for, a markedly years going forward, increase in prize money if you know how to.
Well, Chris, you know what? There's a very easy way to test Linda's theory out. When you sign up for the live
I don't need
stream,
to test because there's no.
I'm saying when you sign up for the live stream, they should ask you a question. What is your preference? What do you want to see most? Do a little survey as part of the thing when you sign up. And let's see how many people check. I'm buying the live stream because I want to watch the bikini, or I'm buying the live stream because I want to watch figure, or I'm buying the live stream because I want to watch one of the women's divisions. And then we'll know what the statistics are. If 98% of the people check, I'm buying the live stream to watch the men's open, then guess what? Then the theory that she put forth, that all these followers that these women have, is not true. If 50% of the people come back and say, I'm buying the live stream because of the women, then guess what? She's got some data to stand on. Maybe she's right. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to come back that way.
There's an easier test, Dave. Go to the Olympia meet and greet and look at the lines for the top 5 men's Olympia. The lines are like 10 miles.
Right, the people who go there, you're talking about live stream. People go there in person, probably go to see the men's bodybuilding. I agree with that. But maybe there is a whole host of people at home that are buying it because of the women. I don't know.
That's called statistics. That's how you know. You don't have to profile the entire world to get the answer. That's why you can just profile. You collect the data from 300 people.
But what if people who go in person, they're likely to spend more money to see the men, but maybe the people at home are buying it for the women? I don't know.
No way.
How do you know? Do a survey. It's very easy on the live stream purchase.
Because that's taking your common sense and flushing it down the toilet. The idea that you go to the meet and greet and you see Hadi Chupin line that's a mile long, and then you go to all the women's divisions and you see like a line 15 deep, and you say, but if we surveyed the people all over the world who bought the live stream, would find a different result. You will not.
All right, let's I'm just saying, if there's, it's a very simple thing to do just to get some data, and then you can say, hey, here's my justification for not paying the women more, because I did a survey of the live stream people, and 98% of them said that they're buying it for the men, not the women. So
here's a simpler test.
Yeah.
Here's a simpler test. We'll call Jim Mannion and we'll say we're going to put on Dave's putting on a women's pro show in Florida, on a men's pro show in Florida. We just want to. We don't want to pay the sanction fee the first year only. Go back and see what my attendance was versus your attendance. I get the men's bodybuilding.
I am on your side 100%. I think that she's out of her mind, Linda Murray, to say that. But sometimes you have to prove statistics, to give data, prove data, I should say, or get data to prove your theory. And it's a very simple, proof if you just put a question into the live stream why you purchased it. But anyway, the point is, and I think Linda really should understand that the men do sell the tickets for the show. So I'm glad Arnold's raised the prize money to $750. I can't wait to see Jake's response to it.
Linda does commentary for Jake, so she's got access to Jake far greater and faster than you and I do. So she can say, we need 750,000 first prize for the women's bodybuilding.
Hey, look, Jake loves women's bodybuilding and loves the women's division.
Sure.
So if anyone is going to support that, it's him. But at the end of the day, he knows what sells tickets for the Olympia, which he is the benefactor of at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So, well, I like your strong opinions. I think that it's good and important to put them out there because I think that they're right. And you guys in the comments, let us know what you think. I'd like to do an iron debate maybe this coming week or the week after. We can go over this and see what people think about the prize money. Think about who's going to give away $1 million first. Will it be Arnold? Will it be Jake Wood? Will it be someone else like Beta Badai? I don't know. Maybe Pittsburgh will give it away first. I don't know. That's what makes this so exciting. I love the times that we're in right now because bodybuilders for the first time in the history are finally being paid what they deserve. And I think that prize money is going to continue to go up. And we're going to see some bodybuilders be able to retire finally with some money in the bank. But I want to just once again thank Jesse for coming out, filming me on the side here as we're doing Heavy Muscle Radio. Thank you, Chris, for all the coverage this past weekend. You and Sid did a great job. Even though prejudging was a little weird, the final wrap-up was phenomenal. You guys did an awesome job in New York. And I am sad that I missed the show, but at least I got to see you guys in Pittsburgh. For now, though, we are out of time. As we say every week here, Chris, with Heavy Muscle Radio.
The truth hurts.
We'll see you next week.